Hello, I'm Marian Keyes.
And I'm Lucy Kennedy, and we support Ireland AM's
Time to Talk mental health campaign.
And our thanks, of course, to Martin and to Lucy there for supporting this week's Time to Talk campaign. And thank you to everyone who supported it and took the time out to be a part of it and offered their kind words. To viewers at home, this next interview you may find a little disturbing. Marian Keyes talks very frankly about her battle with mental health, and it may not be suitable for children, so if you have little ones in the room you may want to usher them out for the next little bit. Now, all week we have watched several guests speak about their battle with mental health issues, and our next guest is proof that no matter how successful you are, no one is immune. Recently I caught up with literary superstar and all-round fabulous gal Marian Keyes in her home to chat about her difficulties with mental health. Marian, thank you very much for joining us and for offering to talk.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you. And to be part of Ireland AM's Time to Talk mental health campaign. Now, I know you've spoken very bravely and very honestly about your, I suppose, continuing battle with depression, but you had a very severe bout of depression, probably your worst, about 4 years ago, if I'm right?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you explain to me where you were at that time in your life when this happened and what was going on for you?
Okay, so it was 4 years ago, and it was the start of October, I think. And I mean, I've always found life to be a very peculiar sort of a thing. And not just me, but for everybody, I've thought of life as kind of an obstacle course, not for everyone. And I've always been kind of one of those swotty people who does the work and, you know, tries to be positive and tries to live in a positive way. But it did kind of come on me very suddenly. I was at a party in somebody's garden. It was kind of a late autumn-y afternoon, and I'd been feeling kind of spinny, is the only word. And it felt like everything in me suddenly started speeding up, and I was talking to somebody who I know very well and love, and I started thinking, I don't know who she is, and everything got faster, and I was very afraid. I was very frightened, but I didn't know of what, and I needed to get away from where I was, and I felt like I needed to get home.
Even though you were with a group of people
yes,
you loved and knew well.
Yeah.
So everything you knew and loved became strange and alien and fearful.
Yes, it was like everybody had been replaced by people who were very similar to themselves, but they weren't themselves at all. And you know, that sounds completely mad, but I really was frightened. I felt I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't have conversations with people, and I was rigid with fear, and I don't know what, I mean, it was a primal sort of thing, and we went to a lovely place. We went to Thailand, which is so beautiful, and there was, you know, the sunny sky and the blue sea, and everything looked like in a science fiction film. Like there were these rocks sticking out of the sea, and they looked so ominous. And we came home early, and I have a really lovely GP, and I went to her, and she was very concerned, and she put me on antidepressants, and I waited for the 3 weeks, because you have to wait for 3 weeks to for them to kick in. But God, it was awful. You know, my husband like putting his arms around me, and I was standing there like a plank, like I was unreachable, and I'd always felt very safe with him. I'm very safe with my mother. I'm very safe in my home, but God, even looking out the window of my bedroom, it made me full of terror, and like I knew a lot about depression because, you know, I've lived with it since the age of 7. But this was very different, and I spent a lot of time on the internet trying to find somebody with a similar story to me, and I couldn't.
And the medication after those 3 weeks, that didn't take the edge off, that did nothing for you?
It didn't. I mean, I hate to say this because, I mean, I want people to try medication. I mean, I want people to try anything that gets them through.
But this is your story. This
This
is
is
what
my
happened to
story,
you.
yeah. And my GP, my lovely GP, put me in touch with John of God's, and all credit to them. You know, they tried all kinds of combinations of.
So you went into St John of God's?
I did, yes. I went
Yeah.
in as an inpatient.
And had you ever been in a place like that before?
Oh my God! I mean, I've been through rehab 1,000 years ago for alcoholism, but this was very different.
And what did they offer you in there? What did they do for you?
Well, it was a safe place, I suppose, in that while I was in there, I couldn't kill myself.
And you were thinking about killing yourself on a regular basis?
I was thinking of killing myself 24 hours a day. And
24 hours a day?
Because I couldn't sleep. And I planned it incessantly. And I'm very wary of talking about this because I don't want to tell people how to do it. I don't want people to do it. There was a time in my life when I thought it was a person's right to end their life if everything became too much. And funnily enough, having gone through all of this, I would really prefer now if people were given help and kept safe so that they didn't.
And that's what St John of God's gave you. It gave you.
Well, it prevented you from taking your own life.
Yeah, because like I couldn't leave.
And how long did you stay there for?
Well, I was only there for about 10 days, and I came out because
it wasn't working for you.
It wasn't working for me. And I did subsequently go in again about 4 months later, just out of utter desperation. So I came home and
was the terror still there?
Yeah. And the only thing really, I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, the only thing that kind of calmed me was planning how to die. Because I thought, you know, if it gets really, really too awful,
There's a way out.
there is a way out. I can make this end. And I kept waiting for the new combination of tablets to work. So there was hope in that as well, I suppose. I kept thinking sooner or later the right combination will be found, will kick in, and suddenly I'll feel normal again. And
did you tell anyone close to you that you were thinking of taking your own life?
I did. And people say that doesn't happen. I did. I mean, I couldn't. I mean, I was so frightened that I told my husband and I told my mother and I told my sister, and I asked them. In fact, I asked my husband, because I didn't want to leave him, I wanted us to be together, if we could do it together. And he, like, obviously he was horrified and terrified, but he was very calm. Like, he's very calm. He just said no, which is fantastic. Like, no, like, oh, okay.
And what did you, I know you tried everything under the sun.
I did.
You did, didn't you?
I did. I mean, I was very good in that way. Like, everything everybody said to me, I did. I did cognitive behavioural therapy, I did meditation, I did mindfulness, you know, I did yoga. In fact, it was straight after a yoga class, I left. I walked 100 yards down the road to the hardware shop and bought a Stanley knife to make my kit to kill myself with. You know, I was obedient in that way, in that, like, I did everything, but I suppose I didn't understand that I was so far out on the edge that nothing was going to have any impact on me at the time. But it doesn't stop you trying or hoping, you know.
And you did attempt to take your life. You took it to, I mean, you went to a certain hotel and, you know, you had it all planned and you were pretty much almost ready to do it, and then you stopped.
I stopped for a couple of reasons. Mostly a horrible one. I had a sense that if I killed myself, that my journey wasn't over, that I would be born straight away again in the same body, in the same life, and that I had to keep moving as I was. And it's horrible to think that God is so cruel that you're not even allowed. I mean, at the time I thought of God as incredibly cruel. Now I think of God as entirely indifferent to anyone suffering. And also, what I had, and I was really lucky, was I had a relationship with a therapist who was different to my relationship with the people who love me, like my husband or my mother or my sister, in that I could tell her anything, and it didn't matter. I didn't have to protect her. Like, I could sit there and tell her, and I mean, I won't go into details, but tell her the plans that I had.
But you rang her from the hotel room just before you were about to take your own life.
I did.
And that conversation stopped you?
It did. And obviously there was a part of me that nobody makes a call, I suppose, if they're 100% certain. But she was very calm. And this was the first time, but it wasn't the only time that she intervened. And I mean, she was, and still is, I mean, she's amazing. I see her once a week. She doesnn't charge me very much.
Still now you see her once a week, Mary?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, I'm steadier now, but I'm still, and I know I'll be really mocked and criticised.
Don't worry about them.
Yeah, but it's still, like, every day I wake up and it's like, today I get up and I go to war. Like, every day, it's like...
Every day is going to war.
Every day, yeah. I feel...
It sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting, yeah.
Now, coming up after the break, Marian, and we're already getting a massive response to her interview, but Marian's going to be speaking more about how she's feeling now and the progress surrounding the stigma of mental health that we're making in this country. See you in a few. Now, before the break, we listened to author Marian Keyes discuss her life battling mental illness and how it has affected her life on a daily basis, especially in the last 4 years. Marian is thankfully managing her mental illness very well now, and that's with thanks to her friends, family and support. So I asked her then, did the stigma surrounding mental health in Ireland, is it dissipating? Is it something that's finally getting better? Again, some of this interview may be disturbing to you and it's not suitable viewing for children.
But 10, 15 years ago, this conversation
wouldn't
be happening.
It wouldn't be
so
happening.
That's progress.
It is progress. It is progress.
But do you feel judged then? That's interesting. Do you feel that people disparage you for even saying the things that you say?
I have been judged.
Yeah.
I mean...
And does that bother you? Or can you push that to one side and go, do you know what, that's your opinion and you're entitled to it and you're just writing it to get readers or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, very much kind of haven't been in such a freaked out state for so long. There isn't really anything that anybody can say that bothers me, but I worry on behalf of other people, you know, that if anyone has kind of identified with me and then they read somebody saying that I'm just a whinger, it's going to make them
they don't believe the whinger bit, they hear your words.
I hope.
And your words are empowering. I mean, there'll be people watching this right now who are thinking thank you, because they'll be in the horrors you're talking about. Some of them will be there right now.
Well, if that helps, I mean, I am glad.
Let's talk about how you came out of this. I mean, I don't think you know yourself how you came out of it.
I don't, because it was very long and very slow. And
so you were baking, that helps?
Yeah, I baked, and that kept me kind of alive.
But there were other suicide attempts along the way.
Yes, and...
But something stayed your hand every time.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a combination of feeling a sense of responsibility to the people I loved, but still a very strong feeling, and I still feel it, that I have a duty to live courageously. That suicide isn't part of my story. I can't put it better than that. It's you know, I don't believe in a compassionate God, but I do believe that there is, I have no idea what, but that there's some sort of plan for all of us, and that I have to be courageous. I can't put it better than that. It's my duty to be courageous even though I'm afraid. So for some reason, suicide isn't part of my thinking anymore. And it doesn't mean that I don't find, and I go through spells, I'm going through a spell at the moment where I can't sleep. I can't sleep and I'm very afraid. And I'm knackered the whole time.
At the moment?
Yeah.
You're afraid you can't sleep?
Yeah. I have found this summer very hard. I know it sounds mad because the thinking goes, depressed people love the light, you know? Depressed people hate November. But I'm the complete opposite. I find autumn very kind. And I have found this summer with that feckin' yellow ball glaring down at me. I found it so hostile. And it was really like every time I went out of the house, it was like, oh, Jesus Christ, you know? Like, and it's awful when you don't kind of fit into the norm of depression, but I have found the heat and the light to be really hostile. It's like I feckin' hate when I meet someone in the street who I don't know very well, where I have to go, grand, you're grand, and yourself, you're great, lovely, great. I want to lie down and die. I'm so tired afterwards.
And for people maybe who are watching this now, and because you've spoken so honestly about suicide and it not being part of your story as you've described it, if there is somebody right now who is watching, who is battling with suicidal thoughts, what would you say to them? And I know that actually your message is your depression and how you deal with it is totally individual. That's the point of what we're saying. But what would you say to somebody who is struggling with wanting out of life?
I mean, I'd feel so sorry for them.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you.
No, it's fine, Sinead, no. I mean, it's such... God. Oh, it's an awful way to feel. If somebody's feeling like that, you know, life, you know, it is a gift. Like, it's a burden, but it is. And we only get one go round. I want them to be helped. I'm not sure how.
Just hang on?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could set up clinics. I really do, where people could just go in and say, look, I'm desperate. I am desperate. I mean, what helped me, I mean, this is really mad, but like, I would watch half an hour of Come Dine With Me. Like, seriously, small things like that, if there's anything, you know,
like a distraction.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to me, still, my idea of perfect happiness is to lie on the couch with my husband and watch telly. I mean, that is the highest, most evolved form of happiness I can think of, because I stop.
The brain stops.
Yeah, it does. So if somebody is, it does get better. You know, like time for me, more than anything, changed things from the acute fear and the desire to move on to the next incarnation. Time kind of softened the edges.
Just the simple passage of time.
Yes.
So just hold on.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
I suppose Ring the Samaritans is the most, if you feel like you can't talk to anyone else. But I wish that people could just show up and be wrapped in a duvet and put into bed.
And minded.
Minded, yes, I do.
So things get better.
They have for me. They have certainly become bearable.
And what about moments of happiness? Is it still yourself and Tony on the bed watching the telly?
Yeah, pretty much. But Jesus, there's a lot to be said for that.
I was about to say, but if you think 4 years ago, you couldn't have imagined doing that.
No. There's always somebody worse off. And I'm very lucky. And even though people may not think that I appreciate what I have,
you do.
I do.
I know you do.
Thank you.
Marian, thank you so much for talking to me
Thank
today.
you.
And thank you for your honesty.
I'm sorry for being so incoherent, but thank you.
You are not
thank
incoherent. You are incredibly eloquent, even in your silences.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Marian.
Thank you.
Huge thank you there to Marian Keyes, who, and I know she was tweeting last night because she even said in one of her tweets, anytime I say anything in public, I agonise about causing offence. You did not cause any offence. But I know that Marian really wanted to clarify her time at St John of God's. And she said, can I clarify something I said regarding my time in St John of God's? Clearly it did work for me because I am still alive. I'm so grateful for all the help and kindness from the doctors and nurses in there. They kept me very safe and I am grateful. So she's singing their praises. What she said was, I simply meant that I didn't come out cured, but I don't believe depression can be cured. It must be accommodated in my life. And I think she gave a remarkably honest and very courageous interview there, and I thank her, as I do everyone who took part in this week's Time to Talk campaign. If you've been affected by anything we've been talking about, we've got helpline numbers on the screen, we have them on our website, and we'll tweet them as well, so there is help out there. Do reach out and talk.
Hi, I'm Annalise Murphy. It's time to talk. I support Ireland AM's mental health campaign.